President Trump declaring a national emergency just a little while ago. The drastic move frees up some $50 billion in federal funding and speaks to the gravity of this moment. After weeks of criticism, the president is promising to ramp up the government response to the health and economic crisis, vowing to make more testing available and revealing he will probably get tested himself. The coronavirus taking a greater toll on the U.S. by the hour, with the number of deaths now up to 48, more than 2,100 confirmed cases here in the United States. Millions of Americans now cut off from life as they've known it, fearing they will get sick and wondering when this nightmare will end. This hour, I'll talk with the governors of Maryland and Ohio. First, let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. Jim, the president is promising to do more while insisting that a lag in coronavirus testing over these past few weeks is not his fault.
That's right, Wolf. After coming under bipartisan pressure up on Capitol Hill, the president went ahead and announced that he is declaring a national emergency in the fight against the coronavirus, also announcing that he's going to be using his executive authorities to free up some $50 billion to fight this pandemic, this epidemic here in the United States. In the meantime, Wolf, there was one big stunning moment in the Rose Garden when the president was pressed on his interactions with a Brazilian official last weekend at Mar-a-Lago. This Brazilian official, the press secretary to President Bolsonaro of Brazil, has now tested positive for the coronavirus. And the president, when pressed on this as to why he has not undergone a coronavirus test at this point, did concede that he may well go ahead and take that test. And here's what he had to say.
Doctors have said you might have it even if you don't have symptoms. Are you being selfish by not getting tested and potentially
Well, I didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah. Most
When do
likely.
you think
Not for
that'll
that
happen?
reason, but because I think I will do it anyway.
Will you let us
fairly
know the
soon.
results?
We're working on that. We're working out a schedule.
Now, one of the other interesting moments that came during this press conference was when the president was asked about his own actions during this coronavirus crisis. He's been downplaying this disease for several weeks now, saying at one point that it would be a miracle that it would go away at some point and that the number of coronavirus cases would eventually get down to zero. So the president was pressed by another reporter as to whether or not he takes any responsibility on this. Another reporter picked up on that later on in the press conference, and here's what he said in response to that. He said he takes no responsibility. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all because we were given a set of circumstances and we were given rules, regulations, and specifications from a different time. Wasn't meant for this kind of an event with the kind of numbers that we're talking about. And what we've done is redesigned it very quickly with the help of the people behind me, and we're now in very, very strong shape.
Now, the other thing that the president said, as well as some of the other top officials on his coronavirus task force, what they said during this press conference is that they're going to be taking a variety of actions in the coming days to get these coronavirus tests out there to the American people. He said that red tape is going to be cut on the bureaucratic level so labs across the country can more quickly run these coronavirus tests. And at another point during this press conference, it was announced that they're going to be setting up a website that is going to be run by Google. And Wolf, one thing we should point out, this website, apparently Americans are going to be able to go onto that website and decide and determine whether or not they need a coronavirus test. It's going to depend on whether or not they're showing symptoms. The president suggested that that website is coming very soon. But one thing we should point out, Google, which is going to be running the website, just put out a statement. We can put this up on screen. They are downplaying expectations that this website will be up and running soon. It says we are developing a tool to help triage individuals for the coronavirus testing. Verily, which is a part of Google, is in the early stages of doing this, as what the statement says, of development and planning to roll testing out in the Bay Area with the hope of expanding more broadly over time. So a suggestion there, Wolf, that that website is not going to be ready as soon or as quickly as the administration says. One final thing, another indication that the president is not perhaps grasping the gravity of this coronavirus outbreak. He was shaking hands with some of the executives who were on the scene for this press conference this afternoon in the Rose Garden, except there was one executive who goes by the name of Bruce Greenstein, who, when approached for a handshake with the president, offered up his elbow for an elbow bump instead. And one final thing we should point out, Wolf, it has just come into us in the last several minutes that down at Mar-a-Lago last weekend during a fundraiser for the Trump campaign, a person has tested positive for the coronavirus. This is a second person who was down at Mar-a-Lago last weekend when the president was down there who was tested positive for the coronavirus. But the Trump campaign just put out a statement a short while ago saying that this person did not interact with the president, so they don't feel like inside the Trump campaign that the president was put at added risk. But it sounds, though, Wolf, that he's going to undergo that test anyway. Wolf?
Yeah, and let's wait and get the results, hopefully all negative. Jim Acosta, thank you very much. Let's turn to all the ways Americans are feeling the pain of the coronavirus pandemic right now. CNN's Nick Watt is joining us from California. Nick, the outbreak is worsening from coast to coast.
Absolutely right, Wolf. And now the National Guard has been mobilized in 7 states. Come Monday morning, there will be more than 15 million children across this country who are not in school. Many, many large employers, including our own, telling any workers who can to now work from home. Wolf, life as we knew it has changed. In New Rochelle, New York, a drive-through coronavirus testing center just opened.
There are 6 lanes. This facility can do about 200 cars per day.
The instruction, approach with windows rolled up. This is where we are now.
I think this could be a 6, 7, 8, 9-month affair, watching the trajectory of the virus.
Much of the rest of the country now shutting down. More than a dozen states have closed all schools. Many more cities and districts doing the same. Los Angeles, the second largest school district in the nation, no confirmed cases, just pulled the plug.
As we reflected over and over and over again, we felt it was the right decision at the right time. These are trying times.
Everywhere, authorities saying there's good reason to keep us apart. Louisiana postponing its primary until the end of June. In Ohio now, no public gatherings of 100 people or more. In Maryland and California, the bar now set at 250. Disneyland California now shutting down for the first time since 9/11. Tamara Jackman just arrived for a 10-day trip.
Just very frustrating.
More dominoes falling. Disney World Florida, Universal Studios, the Smithsonian, Seattle's Space Needle. LA's 50th annual Pride Parade already postponed, and it wasn't scheduled until June. And sports, adding to that growing list of delayed or suspended seasons, the fabled Masters Golf Tournament now postponed. The Boston Marathon also postponed until September.
The metaphor here writes itself. Today we're on the first leg of a marathon of our own as we battle this very serious disease.
At the Westin inside the Texas Medical Center, they're now sanitizing rooms with a robot.
We are the first hotel in the country to have adopted this technology.
An American Airlines pilot has tested positive, and 2 of 4 TS agents at San Jose Airport who also tested positive were patting down passengers.
I certainly wouldn't get on a plane for a pleasure trip.
And at grocery stores around the country, this, the new normal.
My whole route's on the west side of Manhattan.
Okay.
And every single supermarket is just completely wiped out.
Yeah.
And I can't even keep up.
Bare shelves, long lines, growing anxiety. Now, at midnight tonight, that ban on travelers coming in from 26 European countries will kick in. We heard from the Vice President this afternoon that any Americans or permanent residents coming back into the U.S. will be screened and will be asked to go into a voluntary self-quarantine. Wolf, the President also suggesting this afternoon that that list of banned countries is kind of fluid. He said some countries may come off it, some may be added. The UK was brought up. The UK is not on the list right now, but they have nearly 600 cases. In fact, they have more cases right now than some countries that are on the list. Wolf.
Very interesting indeed. All right, Nick Watt, thank you very much. Joining us now, Maryland's Republican Governor Larry Hogan. Governor, I know you got a lot going on. Appreciate it very much. You're taking the time to join us.
Sure.
What will be the impact, first of all, of the president's emergency declaration on Maryland's response to the coronavirus?
Well, first of all, we declared a state of emergency more than a week ago, and we were very pleased to see that the president took those actions today. And I think that many of the things that he laid out are going to be helpful to those of us in the states. I can tell you that we took similar kinds of steps at the state level, but it really is going to take help from the federal government, and all of the things that he talked about are things that I think are going to be helpful. As chairman of the National Governors Association, we've been in contact constantly, all of the governors across the country, with the leaders of the federal government, cabinet secretaries, two meetings in the past week or so in the Situation Room, and with almost nearly all of the governors in America. And we've been talking about some of the things that we needed, and I was very pleased at some of the steps that he took today, and glad that it happened.